Comics. 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 Manga, which is just comics but Japan. Comics! Where have all the good episodes gone? And where are the death battles? Where's the Marvel Herald man to fight an anime guy? Isn't there a superhero upon an MCU steed? Late at night, I toss and I turn, and I dream of what I need. Desk of Death Battle episode that is on about comics. Okay, we do start with an MCU reference, and frankly, while it wasn't aggravating, I didn't care for it. I just hit the mic. Fuck off. And I don't think it was needed at all to get the point across. Not me hitting the mic, the MCU reference. Anyway, this episode has some peculiarities, but otherwise, it's the best of the season. Now, as for oddness, the main one to me is that this episode doesn't actually talk about any obscure trivia or stories about James Bond, aside from bringing up James Bond Jr., which I did know about already. If you're wondering, it's mostly known to me as a show that decided Jaw's entire lower fucking jaw should be made of metal. He like bites metal or something like that. I don't remember exactly how his stuff went, but I remember thinking, what happened, mate? But like, this mostly just talks about a fan theory. It doesn't have anything to do with any proper canonical things. Along with that, it seems to ignore the possibility that all these Bonds could just be the same guy portrayed by different actors. These things aren't uncommon to happen in film franchises. Hell, one can just look at the MCU she mentioned earlier. Both Bruce Banner and James Rhodes clearly changed actors between their first and second appearances. Even in James Bond, Bond himself is hardly the only character to have different actors across his appearances. Even if the timeline would be weird if they were all the same, it's no weirder than like any long-running comic series and how they seem to ignore how much time it has been since the character's debut, telling hundreds of stories with characters all at the same age without much explanation. It's also weird when Jocelyn says that M's death would be more impactful if the theory is true. It wouldn't make it more impactful to me because she'd still be dying in the arms of a Bond she only spent 30 movies with regardless. That being said, there's only 4 minutes of this theory, and the last 2 minutes just Jocelyn going on a tirade about theories. I didn't really care for the tirade. It didn't really... It's just sort of Still though, the episode is the best one of the season. It didn't have any funny jokes, but also was deprived of the jokes that made me want to snort blended crayons, and it involved a topic that some people might not be aware of. Though, given Bond is one of the biggest characters in all of film history, maybe I only think that people wouldn't know about this theory just because some of my friends are uncultured and don't watch movies. Then again, most of the Verse community don't know one of the most iconic villains of all time, one of the most well-known characters across all of movie and fantasy media in general. Oh yeah, and there's also Jocelyn saying the Bond cinematic universe via this theory would be the biggest, as if Death Battle hasn't literally used Godzilla with his 12 on-screen incarnations of the character in 36 movies, and just using the Showa timeline, which is a single solid one, there's 26 movies, almost as much as Bond, and also several that could be part of the timeline that we don't know if they are or not, and a full 26 episode television series, all in a single canon, all that cross over with the main Godzilla series multiple points, such as your Rodans, your Varans, your Mothra. Not to mention there are characters not on Death Battle like Doctor Who and Wong Fei-hung, who have so many more pieces of media that interconnect into a single timeline. Not that I expect any of you to know who the fuck Wong Fei-hung is. I mean, I'll just be here in my little Chinese bubble, recognizing one of our biggest folk heroes. Despite me poking at the episode's flaws, they don't really sully my enjoyment of it. They were just prompts I thought made to be discussed upon for my own entertainment. This is the best episode of the season, and the only one I could see myself maybe rewatching in the future. I didn't even need to mention Jocelyn being an energy-filled character or the good editing, because I didn't need to. The episode overall was enjoyable, and also the editing was nothing special because it didn't involve still images being turned into motion. The editing was just good enough for me. You know, this season of Desk of Death Battle wasn't great. I didn't really enjoy much of it, and 4 of its episodes were dedicated to comic books, and 1 was based on a Japanese comic book, with only 1 episode that felt distinct from the rest due to its subject matter, and only 2 talking about stuff that people might not have known. The jokes were unfunny, the writing was boring, and most of the episodes not worth the time. Throughout it all though, the editing was good, the presentation was decent, and massive shout out to Lisa, the voice actress for Jocelyn, for doing a great job bringing the character to life. While I didn't find this particularly enjoyable as an experience, I did find Jocelyn enjoyable, and it did motivate me to watch the old episodes. And honestly, I still enjoy them. I still like the old episodes, and that's not to say just because I think these ones are new and different they're bad, because the only way they're different is that they're not funny. I think this is just a case of some kind of weirdness as a result of how long it has been since the last season. If they do another season of Desk and Death Battle, I will not be complaining, because there are signs throughout this season that there's something great here that can be built upon. In the same way I wouldn't complain about Death Race coming back, even if its first season was super mid. I wouldn't complain about it. I would prefer DBX coming back though, But hey, beggars can't be choosers in this regard. Do what you want, Death Battle. I'm just glad we're getting Death Battle's return soon, with a cool matchup using 2 underused mediums, and it's also a uniquely grand aesthetic. Hopefully it's good, only time can tell though. That's that. I've done these reviews, I finished the bit. Now I just want to sit back, relax, and listen to some Avantasia, the Metal Opera Part 1, one of my favorite albums of all time. Have a good one, folks. I'm just gonna rest.